I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I wasn't supposed to be anyone, anywhere, except the quiet, invisible girl who never broke rules, never lost control, never trusted the world enough to fall into its arms. But sometimes life shatters quietly, and you don't even realize you're in pieces until the night you go searching for something to bleed hope back into you. I didn't walk into that club to be reckless. I walked in because I couldn't breathe anymore. Because heartbreak feels like drowning in your own chest, and I needed air, or fire, or something, anything, that reminded me I was still alive. The air hit me first, warm, smoky, heavy with perfume and champagne bubbles and sin. Golden lights dripped from the ceiling like melted honey. Music pulsed like a heartbeat I borrowed because my own was too tired to feel. I didn't dress to impress. I dressed to disappear. Black silk dress, simple makeup, hair loose, eyes empty. A nobody among glittering everybodies. I didn't expect anyone to see me. And then, someone did. I felt him before I ever saw him. Like heat crawling up my spine. Like the air tightening around my ribs. Like my pulse remembering it existed. A presence. A gravity. The kind you don't notice until it chooses you. I looked up, and he was already watching me, across the room. Half shadow, half golden light, and those eyes, God. Those eyes didn't look at me. They entered me. Slow, dark, unhurried, like a man who never chased anything, because everything he wanted always came to him. Cold, steel blue fire. Beautiful. Terrifying. He didn't smile. He didn't look away. He just studied me like I was a secret the world had failed to see but he'd been waiting for. I should have looked away first. I should have run. Instead, I held that stare like it was a rope and I was already tangled. He moved, not like a man crossing a room, like a storm deciding where it wanted to fall. Slow, controlled, powerful in a way that didn't need loudness. His suit was black, perfectly cut. His jaw sharp, hair dark, pushed back like he'd run a hand through it moments before. No wedding ring, no hesitation, just certainty. The crowd parted for him, not physically, just instinctively. People felt him coming. I didn't move even when he stopped close enough for his cologne to touch my skin. Expensive, masculine, a little dangerous. Like cedar, smoke, winter nights and wildness. His voice was low, unhurried, warm enough to melt, cold enough to command. Running, he murmured. His accent smooth Italian steel, or hiding. Neither answer was safe, but his voice made truth feel like the only thing I could offer, trying to forget. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted, more fragile. He studied me, slow and deliberate, not like a man flirting, like a man decoding. And does forgetting hurt more, he asked, or remembering? I swallowed. My heart felt too loud. Both. His gaze softened, not with pity, but recognition. Like he knew that taste. Pain, loss, loneliness. He didn't touch me. Didn't even shift closer. Just existed near me. And suddenly the world felt steadier, like his presence alone could anchor a storm. "What's your name?" he asked gently. I didn't answer. Names are intimacy. Names are keys. And something in me already knew. This man wasn't safe. He wasn't ordinary. He wasn't someone you told secrets unless you were ready to give him pieces of yourself you'd never get back. So I whispered, "Why do you care?" His eyes glimmered. Dark humor, dark danger. "Because," he said softly, "you're the only person in this room who doesn't want anything from me." I didn't understand then what that meant. Not fully. Not yet. All I knew was that the loneliness in his voice matched mine. Two ghosts recognizing each other in the dark. The music shifted. Slower, deeper. And he extended a hand, not touching, just offering. "Dance with me." My breath caught. "I don't even know you." A slow, haunting smile curved his mouth. Not kind, not cruel, just True. No, he murmured. You don't. His fingers hovered near mine, close enough that my skin tingled. But you feel me. I did. Everywhere. And maybe it was the heartbreak, or the music, or the fact that nothing had touched my soul in months, until him. But I placed my hand in his. Warm, strong, dangerous. He didn't pull me to him. He drew me in like gravity pulling stars, like it was inevitable, already written. And in that golden, smoky room, in the arms of a stranger whose name I didn't know, I gave myself permission to feel again. I didn't know he was the Italian mafia boss. I didn't know that one touch from him meant no one else would ever touch my heart again. I didn't know loving him would cost me everything. I only knew one thing in that moment, as his hand held mine like he'd claimed it long before I offered it. I wasn't lost anymore. I was found. Even if I didn't realize yet that sometimes being found is just the beginning of being owned. People assume life changes in the morning, with sunlight, with clarity, with logic. Mine changed at midnight, in a golden room filled with strangers, and a man who felt like gravity designed in the shape of danger. His hand in mine wasn't forceful. It wasn't aggressive. It was something far more terrifying. It was steady. And steady is the rarest thing in a world full of breaking. He led, but he didn't drag. He guided, but he didn't command. He simply existed beside me like someone who already knew he didn't need to beg for belonging. He created it. The song didn't ask for much. Slow, low bass, notes curling like smoke. My body moved before my thoughts did, until I wasn't thinking at all, just breathing in the warmth of his palm against mine, the subtle brush of his thumb, the quiet pull of his frame. Not close enough to be inappropriate, close enough to make forgetting him impossible. What are you running from? His voice was low, like a confession he didn't mind hearing echoed back. I could have lied. I almost did. My heart. I whispered. His eyes lowered to my lips, not with lust, but with understanding so sharp it felt like heat sliding under skin. I see. A breath. Then softer. Someone didn't deserve you. That's not how it feels. He paused, studying me. Not my face, but the hurt behind it. Pain lies, he said gently. Memory doesn't. I didn't know if that was wisdom or warning. With him, everything felt like both. We moved together, slow, quiet, the kind of moment that feels too fragile to break with conversation. And yet silence with him wasn't empty. It was full, weighted, like every second meant something neither of us could name yet. A memory flashed, not the soft kind, the kind that burns behind ribs when your world turns to glass and shatters without sound. A phone screen glowing in the dark, a betrayal I didn't see coming. His gaze caught the flicker in my eyes, and he leaned in. Not touching, but close enough that my breath felt borrowed. Whoever hurt you. His voice dropped, smooth and dangerous. Should pray I never learn their name. It shouldn't have felt comforting. It did. I swallowed, forcing steadiness. You don't even know me. His jaw tightened, a quiet storm shifting behind his eyes. I don't need to know you to recognize what deserves protection. Who talks like that? Who looks at a stranger like they already feel responsible for them? A man with power, a man with danger leaking from the seams of his restraint. A man who had lived violence and survived softness. I don't need protection, I whispered. He smiled, small, knowing, painful in its gentleness. Everyone strong thinks that, until they see how it feels to be held for once. Held, not controlled, not possessed, not owned, just held. Before I could breathe, before I could break again in the wrong way, the lights shifted. A sharp white cut through the gold. Music changed, louder, faster, reminding the world it was still a party. But it didn't feel like one anymore. Not around us. His hand didn't fall from mine. He let go slowly, deliberately, like releasing a secret he wasn't finished keeping. Come outside with me. Not an order. A request colored like fate. I hesitated, because I knew myself. I knew what it meant when someone made me feel seen. Seen was dangerous. Seen was addictive. And this man, he saw too much already. So I asked the stupidest safe question I could find. Do you at least have a name? His eyes softened with amusement, but something darker flickered beneath, like giving his name was giving power. Alejandro, not Alex. Not some casual American nickname. Alejandro, elegant, sharp. The name itself felt like a hand around a heartbeat. And you? He asked. My throat tightened. I could lie, protect myself, pretend this was a passing night, not a turning point. But pretending felt impossible under his gaze. Isabella. His lips shaped the name. Not rushed, not careless. Slow. Deep. Like tasting it. Beautiful, he murmured. The way he said it didn't compliment. It claimed belief. Outside, the cold night hit first. Crisp. Silver air. Quiet streets washed in moonlight and black luxury cars. And suddenly I realized, this wasn't just a man stepping outside a club. Men like him didn't step anywhere. Worlds moved for them. He looked at me in the night glow, hands in pockets, jaw set like someone who had spent years learning to restrain violence with elegance. One step closer, not touching, just near. Whatever broke you, Isabella, his voice was velvet over danger. I will not be the thing that breaks you again. My chest tightened, heat rising. Fear and want tangled like twin threads, and then he said it, quiet, final, certain. But I will be something that changes you, not a threat, not a promise, a prophecy. And in that moonlit silence, with his breath mixing with mine, I believed him. The night didn't feel like escape anymore. It felt like the beginning of something I didn't understand, couldn't control, and wasn't sure I wanted to stop. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the worry and wounds and whispered doubts, a truth settled like fate choosing its moment. Hadn't walked into danger. Danger had walked into me. There are moments in life that don't feel real while you're living them. Moments that feel borrowed from movies, from dreams, from a version of yourself braver, wilder, freer than you ever imagined you could be. Standing there with him in the moonlit street, I felt like I had stepped out of the world I knew and into one I wasn't designed for. I should have asked who he really was, what he did, why people inside the club had looked at him with a mix of fear and awe, like he was both a prayer and a threat. Instead, I just breathed and listened and felt the pull of a man who didn't smile often. But when he did, the world seemed to hesitate, unsure whether to melt or run. Alejandro. His name came out softer than I meant it to, like a confession, like a surrender, yes? His voice, deep, steady, textured, felt like it knew how to command armies and whisper lullabies with the same ease. What do you want from me? A slow exhale left his chest, fog ghosting the cold night air. Nothing. A beat, and everything. His honesty didn't scare me. His calm honesty did. Men who want everything usually demand it. Men like him waited for you to give it willingly, and that was somehow more dangerous. Before I could speak, a sleek black car pulled up. Quiet. Expensive. Like it belonged to someone who never had to call for a ride in his life. Two men stepped out. Tall, sharp-eyed. The kind of men who don't look at the world with curiosity, just calculation. They weren't wearing uniforms, no guns visible, but their presence screamed armed. They nodded at him first, then at me. Not respect. Recognition. Like they already knew I mattered to him. Like that fact alone rewrote how they looked at me. Alejandro didn't take his eyes off me as one of them opened the back door. A car? I murmured. To where? To take you home if you wish. And you? He didn't move, didn't break eye contact. I don't chase, he said quietly. But I don't walk away either. Pieces of me rearranged themselves, like my bones understood something my mind wasn't ready to accept. This is a lot for one night, I whispered. Yes. No apology. No correction. Just truth. Then why? Because you looked at me like you weren't afraid. His gaze deepened, And I've forgotten what that feels like. I should have left. I should have gotten in that car, gone home, slept, and woken up with sense. But sense didn't live here. Not in the glow of street lamps. Not in the quiet hum of luxury engines. Not under the gaze of a man who felt like whispered sin wrapped in sanctuary. So I asked the only question my heart could form. Will I see you again? His lips lifted. Not a smile, not approval. A promise. If you walk away, I will let you. He paused. But fate rarely gives two chances. And neither do I. My breath caught. And if I don't walk away, he stepped closer. Not touching, but close enough for warmth to reach me like a secret. Then you don't leave my world. I didn't understand then that his world wasn't a place you visit. It was a place you enter and never escape. Danger isn't always loud. Sometimes it wears black suits and soft eyes. Sometimes it speaks gently. Sometimes it whispers your name like it already owns it. And that night, danger didn't drag me. It invited me. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I simply stayed. And staying was the loudest answer of all. He tilted his head slightly, like memorizing me. Tomorrow, he murmured. You will wake up thinking this was a dream. My heart tightened. And will it be? He held my gaze for a long, unmoving second. No. Soft. Final. Certain. You will wake up changed, and not even realize it yet. A chill slid down my spine. Not fear, awareness, recognition, like fate brushing fingers over my skin. He nodded once to his men, and they stepped back. No force, no pressure, just choice, and yet somehow, it didn't feel like a choice at all. Good night. Isabella. Hearing my name in his voice felt like a vow I hadn't meant to take. I turned, slow, breath unsteady, and sank into the car seat like gravity had suddenly doubled. The door closed. He didn't wave. He just watched me drive away, hands in pockets, moonlight carving silver over the sharp lines of his face, and as the city lights blurred past the window, I touched my palm where his hand had held mine. Warm, electric, marked. I didn't know who he truly was. I didn't know what world he lived in, and I didn't know that stepping into that car wasn't leaving him. It was the first step deeper. Some stories start with love, some with heartbreak. Mine started with a warning disguised as a man I should have walked away from. But instead, I let the night close behind me like a door that was never meant to open again. Morning shouldn't feel different just because a stranger held your hand in the dark. But it did. The sun came in soft, through my curtains warm and gold, and I hated it. Night had wrapped everything in smoke and mystery and possibility. Morning showed me a mirror, and the girl in it looked too ordinary to have belonged in his world. Mascara faded beneath tired eyes. Hair tangled from sleep. No glitter, no silk. Just a girl in an oversized sweater, drinking cheap coffee in a quiet apartment that suddenly felt too small. I should have dismissed last night as a reckless fantasy. A fleeting moment, a chapter no one would ever read again. Except my hand still remembered the weight of his, and my pulse remembered who made it speed up. And my silence felt louder now, because it had known what it felt like to be heard. I tried to shake it off, tried to be sensible, tried to pretend the world was simple again. But truth whispered in the quiet. You don't meet a man like that and just forget. I went to work, telling myself I was normal again. I wore neutral makeup, neat hair, practiced smiles. I held coffee like a shield, walked city sidewalks like routine could erase destiny. But every time my phone buzzed, my breath caught, hoping, dreading, nothing. Every second without him felt strange, like a paused heartbeat. It was ridiculous. I didn't know him. I shouldn't want more. Wanting more was how hearts broke, but wanting nothing felt impossible. By lunchtime, the world had soured into monotony. Emails, keyboards, forced laughter from coworkers who thought life was small and safe. I envied them. Safe suddenly felt like hunger when you'd tasted danger. Then, a buzz. A notification that wasn't from anyone I knew. A message with no contact name. Tell me you're eating. My breath stilled. My fingers trembled just enough for me to feel it. I didn't need a name. His words carried the same gravity as his touch. I stared at the screen too long, trying to convince myself it was intrusive, possessive, wrong. It felt like protection instead. I typed before I could think. Who says I need to? 3 dots appeared immediately. He was waiting. He'd expected me to answer. Because last night you looked like a woman who forgets herself too easily when she's hurting. My chest tightened, heat curling beneath my ribs. He remembered me. He studied me. That was dangerous. That was addictive. I set my phone down, grounding myself. I couldn't let a stranger occupy my reality like this. So I replied, "We barely know each other." Seconds. He answered like silence didn't exist between us. Some souls don't need time. They recognize. My breath faltered. Logic screamed. Not real, too fast, too intense. But my heart whispered, maybe some connections don't need permission. I tried to be firm. You shouldn't text me. His response came slower this time. Measured, controlled. If you truly did not want me to, you would not be replying. Truth hits different when someone else says it. Truth stripped excuses bare. My fingers hovered, trembling again. Not fear, anticipation. Before I could respond, another message appeared. Eat something. I'll know if you don't. I frowned, and then froze as a soft knock echoed at my office door. A delivery bag, elegant, minimal, too expensive for my budget. My name handwritten on the ribbon. My pulse skipped. The room tilted around me. The receptionist peeked in. Someone just dropped this off for you. No name. Black car outside. I didn't need to look. I already knew. Inside the bag, fresh pasta, warm bread, bottled sparkling water. Comfort food. Italian. Thoughtful, impossible. And a small note. Eat. My coworkers whispered. Curious glances. Soft gasps at the luxury. Me. I didn't touch the food. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I wasn't supposed to be anyone, anywhere, except the quiet, invisible girl who never broke rules, never lost control, never trusted the world enough to fall into its arms. But sometimes life shatters quietly, and you don't even realize you're in pieces until the night you go searching for something to bleed hope back into you. I didn't walk into that club to be reckless. I walked in because I couldn't breathe anymore. Because heartbreak feels like drowning in your own chest, and I needed air, or fire, or something, anything, that reminded me I was still alive. The air hit me first, warm, smoky, heavy with perfume and champagne bubbles and sin. Golden lights dripped from the ceiling like melted honey. Music pulsed like a heartbeat I borrowed because my own was too tired to feel. I didn't dress to impress. I dressed to disappear. Black silk dress, simple makeup, hair loose, eyes empty. A nobody among glittering everybodies. I didn't expect anyone to see me. And then, someone did. I felt him before I ever saw him. Like heat crawling up my spine. Like the air tightening around my ribs. Like my pulse remembering it existed. A presence. A gravity. The kind you don't notice until it chooses you. I looked up, and he was already watching me, across the room. Half shadow, half golden light, and those eyes, God. Those eyes didn't look at me. They entered me. Slow, dark, unhurried, like a man who never chased anything, because everything he wanted always came to him. Cold, steel blue fire. Beautiful. Terrifying. He didn't smile. He didn't look away. He just studied me like I was a secret the world had failed to see but he'd been waiting for. I should have looked away first. I should have run. Instead, I held that stare like it was a rope and I was already tangled. He moved, not like a man crossing a room, like a storm deciding where it wanted to fall. Slow, controlled, powerful in a way that didn't need loudness. His suit was black, perfectly cut. His jaw sharp, hair dark, pushed back like he'd run a hand through it moments before. No wedding ring, no hesitation, just certainty. The crowd parted for him, not physically, just instinctively. People felt him coming. I didn't move even when he stopped close enough for his cologne to touch my skin. Expensive, masculine, a little dangerous. Like cedar, smoke, winter nights and wildness. His voice was low, unhurried, warm enough to melt, cold enough to command. Running, he murmured. His accent smooth Italian steel, or hiding. Neither answer was safe, but his voice made truth feel like the only thing I could offer, trying to forget. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted, more fragile. He studied me, slow and deliberate, not like a man flirting, like a man decoding. "And does forgetting hurt more?" he asked. "Or remembering?" I swallowed. My heart felt too loud. Both. His gaze softened, not with pity, but recognition. Like he knew that taste. Pain, loss, loneliness. He didn't touch me. Didn't even shift closer. Just existed near me. And suddenly the world felt steadier, like his presence alone could anchor a storm. "What's your name?" he asked gently. I didn't answer. Names are intimacy. Names are keys. And something in me already knew. This man wasn't safe. He wasn't ordinary. He wasn't someone you told secrets unless you were ready to give him pieces of yourself you'd never get back. So I whispered, "Why do you care?" His eyes glimmered. Dark humor, dark danger. "Because," he said softly, "you're the only person in this room who doesn't want anything from me." I didn't understand then what that meant. Not fully. Not yet. All I knew was that the loneliness in his voice matched mine. Two ghosts recognizing each other in the dark. The music shifted, slower, deeper. And he extended a hand, not touching, just offering. "Dance with me." My breath caught. "I don't even know you." A slow, haunting smile curved his mouth. Not kind, not cruel, just true. "No," he murmured. "You don't." His fingers hovered near mine, close enough that my skin tingled. "But you feel me." I did. Everywhere. And maybe it was the heartbreak, or the music, or the fact that nothing had touched my soul in months, until him. But I placed my hand in his. Warm, strong, dangerous. He didn't pull me to him. He drew me in like gravity pulling stars, like it was inevitable, already written. And in that golden, smoky room, in the arms of a stranger whose name I didn't know, I gave myself permission to feel again. I didn't know he was the Italian mafia boss. I didn't know that one touch from him meant no one else would ever touch my heart again. I didn't know loving him would cost me everything. I only knew one thing in that moment, as his hand held mine like he'd claimed it long before I offered it. I wasn't lost anymore. I was found. Even if I didn't realize yet that sometimes being found is just the beginning of being owned. People assume life changes in the morning, with sunlight, with clarity, with logic. Mine changed at midnight, in a golden room filled with strangers, and a man who felt like gravity designed in the shape of danger. His hand in mine wasn't forceful. It wasn't aggressive. It was something far more terrifying. It was steady. And steady is the rarest thing in a world full of breaking. He led, but he didn't drag. He guided, but he didn't command. He simply existed beside me like someone who already knew he didn't need to beg for belonging. He created it. The song didn't ask for much. Slow, low bass, notes curling like smoke. My body moved before my thoughts did, until I wasn't thinking at all, just breathing in the warmth of his palm against mine, the subtle brush of his thumb, the quiet pull of his frame. Not close enough to be inappropriate, close enough to make forgetting him impossible. "What are you running from?" His voice was low, like a confession he didn't mind hearing echoed back. I could have lied. I almost did. "My heart," I whispered. His eyes lowered to my lips, not with lust, but with understanding so sharp it felt like heat sliding under skin. "I see." A breath. Then softer. "Someone didn't deserve you." "That's not how it feels." He paused, studying me. Not my face, but the hurt behind it. "Pain lies," he said gently. "Memory doesn't." I didn't know if that was wisdom or warning. With him, everything felt like both. We moved together, slow, quiet, the kind of moment that feels too fragile to break with conversation. And yet silence with him wasn't empty. It was full, weighted, like every second meant something neither of us could name yet. A memory flashed, not the soft kind, the kind that burns behind ribs when your world turns to glass and shatters without sound. A phone screen glowing in the dark, a betrayal I didn't see coming. His gaze caught the flicker in my eyes, and he leaned in. Not touching, but close enough that my breath felt borrowed. "Whoever hurt you?" His voice dropped, smooth and dangerous. Should pray I never learn their name. It shouldn't have felt comforting. It did. I swallowed, forcing steadiness. "You don't even know me." His jaw tightened, a quiet storm shifting behind his eyes. "I don't need to know you to recognize what deserves protection." Who talks like that? Who looks at a stranger like they already feel responsible for them? A man with power, a man with danger leaking from the seams of his restraint. A man who had lived violence and survived softness. "I don't need protection," I whispered. He smiled, small, knowing, painful in its gentleness. Everyone strong thinks that, until they see how it feels to be held for once. Held, not controlled, not possessed, not owned, just held. Before I could breathe, before I could break again in the wrong way, the lights shifted. A sharp white cut through the gold. Music changed, louder, faster, reminding the world it was still a party. But it didn't feel like one anymore. Not around us. His hand didn't fall from mine. He let go slowly, deliberately, like releasing a secret he wasn't finished keeping. "Come outside with me." Not an order, a request colored like fate. I hesitated, because I knew myself. I knew what it meant when someone made me feel seen. Seen was dangerous. Seen was addictive. And this man, he saw too much already. So I asked the stupidest safe question I could find. "Do you at least have a name?" His eyes softened with amusement, but something darker flickered beneath, like giving his name was giving power. "Alejandro, not Alex. Not some casual American nickname. Alejandro, elegant, sharp." The name itself felt like a hand around a heartbeat. "And you?" he asked. My throat tightened. I could lie, protect myself, pretend this was a passing night, not a turning point. But pretending felt impossible under his gaze. "Isabella." His lips shaped the name. Not rushed, not careless. Slow. Deep. Like tasting it. "Beautiful," he murmured. The way he said it didn't compliment. It claimed belief. Outside, the cold night hit first. Crisp. Silver air. Quiet streets washed in moonlight and black luxury cars. And suddenly I realized, this wasn't just a man stepping outside a club. Men like him didn't step anywhere. Worlds moved for them. He looked at me in the night glow, hands in pockets, jaw set like someone who had spent years learning to restrain violence with elegance. One step closer, not touching, just near. No, I had given myself to a storm wearing a man's skin, and somewhere deep inside, something told me this wasn't a beginning. It was the point of no return. Left his penthouse with shaking hands and a heart that didn't feel like mine anymore. The morning air felt sharper, colder, like the city itself knew I'd stepped into something dangerous, and was waiting to see if I survived. Luca. Just saying his name in my mind felt like stepping toward the edge of a cliff. Who was he really? I didn't have answers, and only a feeling, a pull, a gravity that made no sense and too much sense at the same time. As I walked down his building's marble lobby, the doorman straightened with the kind of nervous respect you show to royalty, or predators. "Miss," he said quietly, opening the door for me. Be careful, 2 words, and they hit me harder than Luca's hand on my waist ever could. When the door closed behind me, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for hours. I told myself I wouldn't see him again. I lied to myself again. I was getting good at that. Back in my tiny apartment, the one with peeling paint and a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, everything felt wrong, too small, too quiet, too real. My clothes still smelled like his cologne, dark, clean, expensive. My skin still tingled where he touched me. I pressed my palms to the counter and whispered, "What am I doing?" The universe didn't answer. but my phone did. BZ. I looked down. Unknown number. And then the message appeared. Your dress size? Luca needs it. My heart stopped. My fingers shook as I typed back. Who is this? 3 dots. A pause. Then, someone who keeps you safe. Size Miss Amelia, now not asked. Not requested. Ordered. A chill swept up my spine. Safe. Who needed protection after a one-night encounter? I typed slowly. 4. The reply came instantly. 8 p.m. Don't be late. And a warning. Do not search his name. For your own good. My stomach flipped. Dawn Dark Council. Doorman saying be careful. A man who didn't give his name until he chose to. And now this. Not, look forward to seeing you. Not, he enjoyed last night. A warning. I dropped onto my couch as if gravity was stronger here, like the air had turned thick. Everything inside me screamed walk away. But beneath the panic, there was something else. Curiosity, thrill, need. What had he done to me? At 7:29 p.m., after an hour of pacing, showering twice, and internally fighting myself like I was at war with my own heartbeat, someone knocked. Not tapping. Not knocking like a neighbor needing sugar, a single, firm rap that sounded like a statement. I opened the door slowly. A black-suited driver stood there. Broad, expressionless. The kind of man whose face you wouldn't remember, but would never want to cross. Behind him, a sleek black car idling at the curb. Luxury, power, silence with teeth. Miss Amelia? He asked, voice flat. Yes, I breathed. He held out a long velvet box. From Mr. Luca. My fingers trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside, a dress. Soft black, satin, elegant, minimal, dangerous. The way a whisper can be more intimate than a scream, and tucked beneath. It were a small black card, one handwritten word. Mine. My pulse stumbled, like my heart forgot how to beat correctly. I should have slammed the door. I should have thrown the dress away. I should have blocked the number, burned the memory, forced my life back into ordinary lines. Instead, I whispered, God help me, and I stepped back inside to put on the dress. The car was quiet when I sat down. Too quiet. Like a confession chamber, city lights smeared across the windows as we drove. Gold, blue, neon bleeding into night. Finally, the driver spoke, eyes fixed forward. Do you know who he is? No, I whispered. Silence beat for a long moment. Then, quietly, almost like a prayer or a warning wrapped in regret. Good. Keep it that way as long as you can. I swallowed. What happens when I find out? He didn't look at me. You'll have already chosen your side. The city blurred past, glittering, alive, indifferent. My pulse didn't slow, because deep down, I knew something had already happened. I wasn't walking toward Luca's world. I was already falling into it, and falling isn't a choice. The world outside blurred, as the car sliced through the city like a silent shadow. I sat perfectly still, hands clasped in my lap, the black satin dress hugging my body like a secret I shouldn't be keeping. Every streetlight that passed glinted in the tinted windows, and with each flash, a question flickered in my mind. What am I walking into? Not a date, not romance, something else entirely. Something with sharp edges. My heartbeat wasn't soft or fluttering. It pounded heavy, like it knew I was driving into danger and still refused to tell me to turn back. When the car finally stopped, the driver didn't move immediately. He just looked forward, jaw tight, then quietly. Whatever happens inside, keep your head high. I opened my mouth to ask what that meant, but he was already out, coming around, opening my door. Cold air met my skin, and then I saw it. A mansion. No, a fortress, set behind black iron gates, tall, elegant, old-world stone. Balconies wrapped in vines, torches burning along the path like something out of a 1,000-year-old kingdom. It didn't look modern. It looked like legacy, and power carved into walls, the kind of place you don't get by being a businessman. I stepped out, breath fogging in the night. Men in black suits flanked the entrance, not standing straight like servants, but still as statues, eyes sharp, hands ready. Not staff. Security. The kind that didn't blink unless told. One opened the front door without being signaled. I walked inside, and the world shifted. Warm, golden lighting. Marble floors that shone like liquid glass. A long dining table set for 2. Candles burning low, wine already poured, chairs angled toward each other like a setup. Not a coincidence, and there he was. Luca stood near the fireplace, back to me, rolling his sleeves to his forearms with slow precision, exposing veins, strength, something lethal disguised as elegant. He turned. Those eyes, dark, calm, unshakable, locked on mine like he already owned the moment. Amelia. Just my name, but it felt like a hand closing around my ribcage. You came. You sent a car, I said, trying for steady. Hard to ignore. His lips curved, not a smile. A knowing. Some things aren't meant to be ignored. He walked toward me, steps measured. Presence growing heavier with every inch closed between us. That energy again, the kind that didn't just fill a room, it ruled it. He reached me, lifted my chin gently with 2 fingers. You look beautiful. You chose the dress. And it fits you perfectly, he murmured. I knew it would. How? I pay attention. Simple. Chilling. His hand dropped, but the ghost of his touch stayed like a brand. He motioned to the table. I hope you're hungry. Hungry, yes, but not for food. We sat across from each other, candles flickering like they knew secrets. I lifted my glass, trying not to look as overwhelmed as I felt. Tell me something, I said. Last night. Was it planned? Or just chance? He didn't blink. There is no chance in my life. My fingers froze around the glass. So you saw you. Chose you. His voice slid smoothly, confident as sin. You walked into that bar like a storm that forgot its power. I don't overlook power. I'm not powerful. His gaze sharpened, not cold, but cutting, wrong. You simply haven't been taught what you are yet. Taught. Like he intended to be the teacher. Like I was already his student. The lights dimmed slightly. Maybe the room grew heavier. Maybe it was just my nerves tightening around my spine. Who are you, Luca? A beat, a long one, then calmly, like he was telling me tomorrow's weather. I lead my family, my city, my world. What does that mean? He leaned back, eyes steady, voice soft but iron hard beneath. It means everyone eats because I allow it. It means peace stays because I choose it. It means war waits at my door every day and bows when I walk through. I swallowed. Hard. That's not business, I whispered. No, he said. It isn't. Silence pressed in. Then, he leaned forward, elbows on the table, gaze anchored to mine. Whatever you're imagining right now. I promise you the truth is darker. My breath stuttered. So why am I here? I asked, voice small. He didn't look away. Didn't hesitate. Because the world I live in doesn't offer softness. I've earned everything. Respect, fear, loyalty. But softness? His voice dropped. That is rare, priceless. His eyes burned into me. And the night I saw you, I recognized it. And I wanted it. Wanted, not asked. Not hoped, claimed. I felt something dangerous unfurl in my chest. Attraction wound with fear like vines around a flame. And what happens if I decide I don't want to be part of your world? He lifted his glass. That, he said quietly, is the thing you should think about before you try to leave. A warning. Not loud, soft, which made it so much worse. I wasn't dining with a stranger. I was dining with a king born from shadows, and every instinct in me whispered the same truth. You don't escape a man like him. You learn to survive him, or you become his story. There are moments in life that don't feel real, even while you're living them. Sitting across from Luca, candles flickering, shadows dancing against marble walls. Danger wrapped around him like a tailored suit, was one of them. He didn't eat much. He didn't need to. His attention? All on me. The way one studies a chess piece they've already decided will change the game. I forced myself to lift my fork, even though my appetite had evaporated the second he'd started speaking about power like it was oxygen. You haven't touched your food, he murmured, voice velvet and steel. I'm overwhelmed, I admitted. Good, no apology, no softness. Just that single word, good, as if discomfort was necessary currency to stand in his presence. What exactly do you want from me, Luca? No, he corrected softly. What do you want? I blinked, thrown off. Me. I don't chase someone unless they want to be caught. A shiver slid down my spine. I could have lied. pretended I didn't feel this inexplicable pull, denied what was burning between us like match to gasoline. But the truth rose without thought. I don't know what I want. He leaned back, studying me like the answer intrigued him rather than disappointed. Honesty, he said quietly. Rare. Then he put his glass down, fingers tapping the stem once, a sound that echoed more than it should have. Let's make something clear, he said. I don't offer normal. Not to anyone. My pulse kicked hard. I'm not asking for normal. A flicker, brief but real, passed in his eyes. Satisfaction. Approval. Good, he murmured. Because normal men don't interest you, I swallowed. How do you know that? You walked into that bar alone, he said. Hollow, searching, not for safety. His voice lowered, slow and devastating. You came looking for something dangerous enough to wake you up. Heat flushed my chest. Fear? Excitement? The line blurred. And you think that someone is you? He didn't smile. Not fully. Just a shift at the corner of his mouth, the kind a storm gives before striking land. I don't think, he replied. I know. Silence fell again. Not awkward, charged. You live in two worlds right now, he said. The life you've known, and the life you walked toward when you took my hand last night. I didn't know who you were. You didn't need to. Some connections don't ask permission. They just happen. His hand slid forward on the table, palm open between us. A choice, just like last night, except now I understood the gravity. If you take my hand tonight, he murmured, you don't walk back to the life you had. My chest tightened. And if I don't? He didn't blink. Then you walk out safely, untouched, and the world goes back to what it was, a lie. I felt it in the air like smoke. He never forgot, never let go. This wasn't just seduction. It was a shift in fate. Why me? My voice was barely a breath. Because you see the world like I do, he said quietly. You feel too deeply, love too fiercely, and break too quietly. That kind of softness. His jaw flexed. It deserves protection. Protection. Not romance. Not flowers or sweet nothings. A vow disguised as a warning. And what do you get? I whispered. His eyes locked onto mine. Dark. Consuming. Someone worth being ruthless for. The air thickened. Heavy. Electric. Inevitable. You don't know me, I said weakly. No, he agreed. But I will. My hands were trembling. I wasn't sure if it was fear or want. Maybe both. Because he didn't make promises. He declared futures. He watched me for a long moment, then, stand. The command slid under my skin like silken flame. I rose, not because he told me to, but because something inside me answered him before my mind could think. He walked around the table, slow, deliberate, stopping inches from me, his hand lifted, not touching, just hovering by my cheek, the warmth of him brushing my skin. You don't get halfway with me. Amelia, he whispered, you choose. Fully. Electric air. Shallow breath. A heartbeat that didn't feel like mine. This is your moment, he murmured. Take my hand, or walk away. My gaze dropped to his hand, waiting between us like the final door to a world I didn't understand but couldn't turn from. My voice came out barely audible. And if I step into your world? His answer was soft, deadly, certain. Then I become yours, and you mine. Two futures hovered. One safe, one terrifying. Only one felt alive. My hand began to lift, shaking, slow, inevitable. And just before our fingers touched, a gunshot cracked outside. The walls trembled. Voices erupted. Boots thundered toward the entrance. Luca didn't flinch. His eyes never left mine. Decision time is over, he said calmly. He took my hand himself, and just like that, I crossed the line. The moment Luca's hand closed around mine, the world erupted. Shouts, boots pounding marble, the low vibrating echo of chaos breaking against silence. I didn't breathe. Couldn't. He didn't panic, didn't flinch. He just turned his head slightly, listening. Like violence was a language he'd mastered long before I ever stepped into his life. A guard burst into the dining room. Boss, perimeter breach. They tried the east wall. Boss. Not Luca. Not sir. Boss. The word hit me like a blade dipped in truth. Luca released my hand and reached into his jacket. Not rushed. not frantic, and drew a gun as casually as someone picking up a pen. My heart stopped. This wasn't illusion anymore. Not mystery, temptation, seduction. Reality just kicked the door open, and it was armed. Luca lifted the weapon. Checked the chamber. Calm, efficient, familiar. A man born to violence isn't dramatic about it. He turned slightly, his voice quiet enough that it was more frightening than if he'd shouted. Keep her with me. The guard nodded like it was an order signed in blood. Luca looked at me then, and something shifted behind his eyes. Not softness, something heavier, a silent promise, dark and unyielding. No matter what happens, he said, stay behind me. My throat was dry. Luca, what's going on? A warning, he answered, sliding a second gun from a drawer under the table. Someone thinks they can touch what's mine. Mine. That word again. Except now it wasn't seductive. It was dangerous. My pulse was a trapped bird beating against bone. Are we in danger? He looked me dead in the eye. No, they are. His hand brushed my waist as he passed, not tender but grounding, like he was staking a claim even in chaos. Then he walked toward the entrance hall, every step steady, controlled, a king stepping onto a battlefield he already owned. I followed, the guard close behind me. The mansion's front doors were open, cold air spilling in, mixing with the metallic smell of gun oil and adrenaline. 3 armed men knelt outside, hands tied behind their backs, heads forced down by Luca's guards. Blood streaked the marble steps, not a fight, an execution line. My stomach twisted. The world tilted. This wasn't danger flirting with the edges of my life. This was danger sitting at its center. Luca stepped forward. Who sent you? One man spat blood at the floor. You think your throne is eternal? The old ways are dying, Luca. You'll fall. Rome always falls. Luca didn't blink. My city doesn't fall. His voice, God. That voice wasn't human. Cold. Royal. Ancient. Ruling wasn't something he did. It was something he was. He crouched in front of the man, gun dangling loose in one hand like it didn't need to be pointed to be threatening. You want to send a message? He murmured. Here is mine, the man laughed, my broken wild. You're slipping, DeLuca. Everyone sees it. DeLuca. My chest froze. Luca. DeLuca. The name hit me like history and fire at the same time. I'd heard that name, whispered, rumored, feared. Not just Mafia, Mafia royalty, Luca. Stood slowly, like a verdict rising from stone. Then he fired. 1 shot. Clean. Final. The body dropped. I flinched so hard my teeth clicked. Before the echo even died, Luca turned to the remaining 2. You walk back to whoever sent you, he said, voice low, lethal. And you tell them this. Touching what's mine is surrendering your life. One man looked up, voice shaking. She's not. Luca raised the gun. Silence swallowed the sentence. Not a bullet. Not yet, just threat. Absolute, unquestionable threat. She is, Luca said simply. I felt it then. Not ownership. Not possession. A shield. A vow forged in violence and whispered in shadows. The guards dragged the 2 survivors away. Engines revved. They'd be sent back not as soldiers, but warnings. Luca turned to me. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. Not from calm, from intensity. You stepped into my world tonight, he said quietly, and my enemies noticed. My legs shook. I never asked for this. No, he said softly. But fate doesn't ask. It chooses. His hand cupped my jaw. Gentle, terrifyingly gentle after the brutality still ringing in the air. You're safe with me, he murmured. Because losing you is not an option. My voice came out raw. I don't know if I should run from you or hold on. His fingers slipped to the back of my neck, steady and warm. Then stay until you decide. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Too far, too late. No one came here unless Luca allowed it. He didn't look away from me. You asked who I am, he whispered. Tonight you saw, I had, not a man, a storm wearing a heartbeat, a king whose throne wasn't built of gold, but fear and loyalty and blood. And now I was standing next to him, breathing the same air, marked not by choice, but destiny. I didn't know what mattered more in that moment, breathing, or understanding the way he was looking at me. because Luca Romano wasn't looking at me like a man who found a girl hiding in his mansion. He was looking at me like fate had walked into his life and refused to knock first. There was depth there, heat, a strange softness, wrapped in danger, and it terrified me. Not because it felt wrong, but because for the first time in my life, something felt right. I pulled my hand from his, like distance could save me from this madness building between us. Back there, I whispered, staring at the polished marble floor, at the plaza, the way you kissed me, why? He moved closer, slow, controlled, predatory elegance in every step. Because, he murmured, you were running from something, and I wanted to give you a moment where you didn't have to. His voice had velvet edges, soft but draped over steel. I swallowed hard. So you just decided kissing a stranger was the solution? His lips curved slightly. You didn't feel like a stranger. You felt like a storm about to break. I admired it. Admired it. Nobody admired me. Nobody saw me. Not before that night. And there he was, this dangerous man whose whispers could probably order a war, telling me he admired something in me. Luca, I said quietly. You don't even know me. He tilted his head. What if I want to? Silence pressed between us, thick, expectant. And just when I thought my heart would crack open from the weight of it, thunder rumbled across the sky again, shaking the windows. A storm had rolled in fast, like the world itself was reacting to us. He reached past me and pulled the balcony curtains shut, soft fabric whispering as it fell. You're shivering, he said. I'm fine, I lied. Luca studied me, then draped his suit jacket around my shoulders, warm, heavy, smelling like cedar, smoke and a man born to command. Sit, he said gently, motioning toward a velvet-lined chaise. You look like you haven't slept in days. I sat. Maybe because my body didn't trust my legs anymore. Maybe because my soul was tired. Tell me, he said, pouring a glass of deep red wine but not handing it to me until I met his eyes. What were you running from? I laughed, but it cracked in the middle. The world. My life. Expectations. Heartbreak. Everything. He nodded slowly, like every word made sense. Sometimes, he said, the world suffocates us so quietly, we don't notice we're dying until we finally breathe. His empathy hit me harder than anger or danger ever could. Who hurt you? He asked softly. The question slid under my ribs like a blade, but gentle, like he wasn't cutting, just opening a door I'd locked from the inside. Someone who was supposed to love me, I whispered. Someone who made me feel like love was something I had to earn, and could lose at any moment. Luca's jaw tightened. If love is conditional, it isn't love, it's control. For a second, he looked like he wanted to hunt down every ghost from my past. People aren't supposed to cage the ones they care about, he said. They're supposed to protect them. The storm outside cracked again. Lightning painted his face silver. Dangerous, intense, beautiful. The kind of man girls were warned about. The kind of man who could destroy you. Or save you without meaning to, I whispered. And what about you? Who did you lose? His breath stilled. His gaze hardened at the edges. Pain disguised as power. Family, he said quietly. And when you lose blood, you learn to protect what you have left. At any cost, there it was. The shadow behind his strength. The wound behind his throne. I didn't know his story, but I could feel the weight of it. And suddenly the mansion, the luxury, the danger around us. None of it scared me as much as the truth I felt rising in my chest. I wasn't running anymore. I was falling, not slowly, not sweetly, but like a girl standing at the edge of a building and realizing the fall feels like flying before the ground knows your name. Luca sat near me, not touching but close enough I felt his warmth. Stay tonight, he murmured. Not because you're lost, but because maybe you finally don't have to be. I should have said no. I should have run again. But my voice broke into a whisper I couldn't stop. Okay, outside, thunder rolled like destiny applauding, and inside, for the first time in forever, I exhaled, safe, seen by the devil the world feared. And somehow that night, he felt like the safest place I'd ever been. Night draped the city like a velvet cloak, and inside Luca's mansion, the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. I had spent hours pacing the suite, my mind racing faster than my heartbeat, trying to understand what I'd willingly stepped into. Luca sat across the room, legs crossed, One arm draped over the chaise like he owned more than furniture, like he owned air itself. I can feel it, he said suddenly, voice low, measured. You're thinking too much. I froze. I can't help it. You're dangerous. Dangerous? He tilted his head, eyebrow raised. Is that your judgment or your fear? Both, I wanted to say, but instead I walked closer. You're not just a man, Luca. You're something else entirely. And I don't know if I want to survive it. He didn't smile, but the corner of his mouth twitched in acknowledgement. You won't just survive, Amelia. You'll thrive, if you trust me. I let the word linger in my ears. Trust. Trust was a currency I had spent too freely in the past, only to be left bankrupt. And yet, here I was, standing in a room with the Italian Mafia's most dangerous heir, feeling drawn. Why me? I asked finally. Why choose me out of everyone in this city? Luca rose, every movement fluid, predatory, elegant. He closed the distance between us without a sound. Because you're not like them, he murmured. They're all noise pretenders, shadows hiding from life. He paused, eyes darkening. You're real, honest, vulnerable in a way that doesn't demand pity. My chest tightened. You don't know me. You barely know me. He reached out, fingers brushing the side of my face. Not possessively, but deliberately. I know enough. Enough to see the truth hiding behind your walls. Enough to know what I want. And that word again, want, settled in my stomach like hot lead. I took a step back. And what is it that you want? More than a night, he said softly, his gaze lowering to my lips, then returning to my eyes. More than fleeting touches or whispered promises. I want the part of you that no one sees, the part that you've locked away. Fear and desire tangled in my chest, each vying for dominance. I should have walked away, every instinct screamed to run. But I didn't, because the pull between us was more than attraction. It was inevitability. Luca's eyes scanned the room, calculating. Then he spoke again, quieter this time, almost a whisper meant for shadows. You need to know something. The world outside this mansion doesn't forgive weakness, and being near me, it comes at a cost. What cost? I asked, voice trembling. He exhaled slowly. Enemies are everywhere. Power comes with danger. People will test you, Amelia, and some of them won't survive contact with me. Or you. The weight of his words pressed down on me, making the room feel smaller, heavier. And yet, he added, stepping closer, I can't stop wanting you in it. Not just tonight. Not just this way. I want you in every moment that matters. I swallowed, feeling a strange mix of fear and thrill. And if I fail? You won't, he said simply, dark certainty rolling off him like waves of heat. Because I will never let you. His hand brushed my shoulder. Small, controlled grounding. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth sink in. There was danger here. Danger lurking behind every smile, every whispered word, every touch. But there was also safety. Not the kind that exists in walls or locks. The kind that exists when someone decides to keep you alive. Keep you untouchable. Keep you theirs. Stay, he murmured, voice lower now, intimate. Stay in the shadows with me. Learn them. Embrace them. Because once you do, you'll understand why leaving is impossible. I opened my eyes, meeting his gaze. Something inside me shifted. Something surrendered. I will stay, I whispered, and he smiled then. Not the casual, flirtatious curve from before. A real, dangerous, knowing smile. Good, he said, because nothing outside this room will prepare you for what's coming. Outside, the city hummed, oblivious to the storm brewing inside these walls. Inside, I felt it, the first true taste of belonging, of danger, of desire. I was no longer a girl walking blindly into a bar. I was Amelia. And I was standing in the shadows of Luca Romano's world, where trust and fear collided, and nothing would ever be the same again. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Time bending around Luca like even the universe instinctively obeyed him. We sat in silence after that, each lost in thoughts too heavy to name. The storm outside softened into a steady rain, tapping against the windows like a heartbeat that didn't belong to either of us. I should have been afraid. Afraid of him. Afraid of what I'd agreed to. Afraid of the world waiting beyond those marble walls. Instead, I felt calm, too calm, like some quiet part of me had been waiting my whole life to breathe in a place like this. And then, a knock on the door, not gentle. Not hesitant. 3 sharp raps that sliced the silence clean in half. Luca straightened. The air changed. His shoulders went still. eyes darkening like a storm cloud rolling in behind his irises. "Stay here," he said, voice dropping into that tone, that cold, steel-lined command that reminded me exactly what he was. He didn't wait for me to answer. He moved toward the door, every step controlled, calculating. The door opened, and a man stepped inside, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that looked like it had never known wrinkles. His eyes scanned the room before landing on me. He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He only assessed me like I was a threat, or a mistake, or both. "Boss," he said quietly, voice smooth but edged with warning. "There's a situation." Luca didn't look back at me. "Handle it. It involves her." My breath caught. Her. Me. Luca's jaw flexed. "Speak," he said. The man glanced at me again before continuing. "Words out. The streets are buzzing. Someone saw you two leave last night." A chill slid down my spine. The stranger's voice dropped. "We have eyes asking questions, and ears listening for answers." I didn't understand everything, but I understood enough. I wasn't invisible anymore. Luca finally turned his head toward me. His gaze wasn't soft now. It was sharp, protective, fierce. The kind of look a lion gives before deciding if the world gets to breathe another minute. "Who?" Luca demanded. "Unknown," the man replied. "But whoever it is, they know she matters." The room felt like it shrank, air thickening around me. Me. Matter? To him, this wasn't romance. This wasn't infatuation. This was danger. Real, pulsing, closing in danger. Luca's voice turned colder than I'd ever heard it. "Tighten security around her. Anyone watching her disappears." Quietly. The man nodded, but his eyes stayed on me with a silent question. "Is she worth this?" He left without another word, and the door clicked shut, sealing us back into our world of shadows. I stared at Luca. He stared at the floor. Silence stretched between us like a blade. Finally, I whispered, "This is real, isn't it?" Slowly, he lifted his gaze to mine. "It was real the moment you walked into my life." I exhaled shakily. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, stepping toward me, voice low and unshakable, "you are no longer someone who can walk away without consequences." My stomach nodded. "So I'm trapped?" "No." His voice softened, but his eyes did not. "You're protected." "Those aren't the same," I wanted to argue. To tell him protection that feels like a cage still feels like a cage. But then he reached for my hand. Warm. Solid. Sure. And the way he held me. It didn't feel like possession. It felt like conviction. "People will come," Luca murmured. "Not because you're weak, but because hurting you would weaken me." "And what does that make me?" I whispered. "A liability?" "No." His voice sharpened, lethal with certainty. "It makes you someone worth protecting." My chest ached. Strange, painful, hopeful all at once. "Luca, I never asked for this." He stepped closer, eyes searching mine. "No one asks for fate. It doesn't knock. It breaks the door." I swallowed. "And if I can't handle it?" His thumb brushed my jaw, gentle where his world wasn't. "You will." "How do you know?" "Because you didn't break before you found me," he said. "You won't break now." The storm outside faded completely. The world grew still. And I realized something terrifying. I wasn't scared because he was dangerous. I was scared because he made danger feel like a place I could live, like a place I could belong. He leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "Stay with me. Not because you're trapped, but because you choose to." I didn't speak. I just nodded. And in that quiet, trembling second, I chose a world that could swallow me whole. A world where love wasn't a promise, but a weapon. The next morning arrived without warning, sunlight cutting through the curtains like a blade. But inside Luca's mansion there was no warmth, only tension, thick and tangible, crawling along the walls. I woke to an empty room. No warning, no explanation, just the lingering scent of him on the sheets, and the echo of last night's storm. I slid out of bed quietly, trying not to disturb the silence, when I heard voices. Not ordinary voices. Deep, harsh, foreign. Voices that didn't belong to anyone I recognized. My pulse spiked. Luca's presence filled the doorway before I could even turn. Suit immaculate, expression sharper than any knife I'd ever seen. "We have a visitor," he said, voice low, calm, but not the calm that comforts, the calm that promises consequences. I followed him down the marble hallway, footsteps silent, heart hammering in my chest. In the main hall stood a man, tall, broad, a look in his eyes that told me he'd killed without hesitation and would do it again without thought. "Who is he?" I whispered. "An unwelcome reminder," Luca said. He didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. He only moved closer to me as if his proximity could shield me from the danger I couldn't yet name. The man stepped forward, voice cold, deliberate. "Luca Romano, or should I say, De Luca?" I flinched at the name. I had heard it whispered in fear, in reverence. Now it was spoken like a challenge. "Who sent you?" Luca's tone didn't rise. He didn't even breathe harder. He simply stood, anchored to the ground like the world itself bent to him. "No one. I act alone," the man said, smirk twisting his face. "But I've been watching you, watching your empire, and now I see. Someone else has caught your attention." My stomach dropped. Me? Was I really caught in a world like this? Luca's eyes sharpened. "Step closer, and you won't leave this room alive." "I don't intend to," the man said, shrugging. But there was tension beneath the casualness. "I just wanted to see her, to know the girl who has your attention." "You should leave," Luca said. Flat, deadly, absolute. The man's smirk didn't falter. "I can't, she's intriguing, dangerous even." His gaze shifted toward me, and I felt it like fire, like he was trying to measure the value of my soul, like he could see the part of me only Luca had touched. Luca stepped closer, hand brushing mine briefly, grounding, protecting, possessing without ownership. "You belong nowhere near him," Luca said softly, but it carried the weight of a king's decree, the finality of judgment. The man's eyes narrowed. "We'll see how long that lasts." I wanted to speak, to tell him I was no one, but Luca's presence silenced me. The energy around him was suffocating, magnetic, unyielding. "I said leave," Luca repeated, sharper this time. The air itself seemed to shiver with his command. The man laughed softly, a sound without humor. "I wonder if you'll keep her safe, De Luca. I wonder if she's just another weakness you can't afford." Luca didn't answer immediately. His hand brushed mine again, and I felt my heart catch, half terrified, half enthralled. Finally, his gaze met the intruder's. "She is no weakness. But you will regret staying in this room." The man's smirk faltered for the first time. Bold words for someone who wears a crown built on fear. "I don't wear a crown," Luca said softly, almost serene. "I am the storm. And storms don't negotiate." The intruder's eyes flicked toward me once more. Then with a single, controlled motion, he backed away. "I'll be back," he said quietly. "And next time, you won't have the luxury of surprise." And just like that, he disappeared into the city beyond. I exhaled shakily, barely realizing I'd been holding my breath the entire time. Luca turned to me, expression unreadable. "Do you understand now?" I nodded. "That I'm in danger?" "Yes," he murmured. "And that staying with me means accepting it. Every moment, every risk, every enemy who dares to test you." I swallowed hard, the reality settling in. The world I had chosen wasn't just dangerous, it was lethal, and I wasn't just a bystander. "You won't leave me alone," I whispered. "Never," he said simply. And I realized in that moment that I didn't want him to. Not now, not ever. The mansion felt different after he left. Not quieter, just heavier, like danger hadn't exited the door, only stepped into the hallway to wait. Luca hadn't moved for several seconds, jaw clenched, hands curled at his sides, breathing slow but coiled, like he was forcing himself not to explode. Finally, he turned to me. "Come with me," he said. Not a command, not an order, a declaration carved from stone. I followed. Footsteps soft against the marble as he led me down a corridor I hadn't seen before. Dark wood, gold accents, old Italian portraits watching us with knowing eyes. We entered a room bathed in shadow and silence. A study, shelves lined with leather-bound books, a desk that looked like it had seen the rise and fall of dynasties. He closed the door gently. Then he faced me. "Say what you're thinking," he murmured. I blinked. "Why? So you can decide if I'm worth protecting anymore?" His eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in concern. "You think this is about worth? What else would it be about?" I whispered. He stepped closer, voice low, steady, dangerous in its truth. "It's about survival. Because if you are going to stay in this world, I need to know you see it clearly. And if I don't, then I walk you out of here myself," he said. "Not to push you away, but to save you." His words hit harder than threats ever could. A man who could command armies was offering me an exit, because losing me to danger was worse to him than letting me go. I swallowed. Hard. I don't want to leave, I whispered. His chest rose, breath catching just a little. Small, but real. Then he turned, unlocking a drawer in the desk. When he returned, he wasn't holding a weapon. He was holding a phone. My phone, I stared. Where did you... Your belongings were brought here. For safety. Or control. My heart tightened, emotions twisting. Fear? Trust? Both tasted the same right now. He held it out to me. Unlock it. I frowned. Why? Because trust isn't a word, he said softly. It's a choice. And trust without vulnerability? It's nothing. His eyes didn't demand. They invited. Still. My fingers trembled as I took the phone. Not because I had secrets, but because letting someone see all of you is its own kind of nakedness. I entered the passcode and handed it back. Luca didn't look at the screen. He set it on the desk. You could run, call someone, disappear. His voice stayed steady. And yet you didn't. Because I don't want to disappear, I murmured. Not from you. The admission hung in the air, warm and terrifying. Then he did something I didn't expect. He pulled his own phone from his jacket and placed it beside mine. Unlocked. You think trust is one-sided? His tone softened. As if I haven't risked just as much by bringing you here? I blinked, stunned. That phone was more than a device. It was access, power, secrets that empires could crumble over. Look, he said. Go through it. I don't want to. Good. He stepped closer, voice lowering. Trust is not proven by searching for betrayal. It's proven by choosing not to. My breath shook. He reached out, fingers brushing my jaw. Not possessive, not claiming, just present. You are free, Amelia, he whispered. Free to choose me, free to walk away. The room pulsed with truth. No one in my world ever gets that choice, he continued. But you do. My throat tightened. And if I stay? I asked. His eyes darkened, heat and promise entwining. Then you become part of my world, not as property, but as consequence. Consequence? I echoed. For every choice I make, he said, voice rough with emotion he rarely showed, I will think of you. Factor you, protect you. In every decision, your shadow will stand with mine. That kind of devotion was heavy, powerful, dangerous, and God help me, I wanted it. I stepped closer, breath trembling but sure. I choose you, Luca. His eyes closed for one brief, fragile second, like the world inside him exhaled. Then he opened them, gaze burning into me. Then from this moment forward, he said softly, your enemies become mine, and mine become yours. A chill ran through me, but beneath it, warmth, purpose, fire. I wasn't a runaway anymore. I wasn't hiding from the world. I was stepping into one, dangerous, beautiful, unforgiving, with a man who didn't just command loyalty. He demanded destiny, and somehow, I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Peace is a strange thing. You never realize you had it, until the moment it shatters. For a brief, impossible heartbeat after Luca and I made that choice. Our choice. The world felt still. Not safe. Not soft, but aligned, like a storm had settled not because it was over, but because it was gathering strength. We left the study in silence, my pulse steadying with each step beside him. Every hallway felt different now. Not a maze, not a gilded cage, a kingdom, and I was no longer wandering through it. I was being walked beside the king. He didn't speak for a while. I think he needed the quiet. Then he led me to a room I'd never seen. Low lights, velvet walls, a table carved from dark stone. It wasn't a dining room. It wasn't a lounge. It felt ceremonial. Ancient even. What is this place? I whispered. A promise room, he said. A chill lifted across my skin. What? He turned toward the table, fingers tracing the surface like touching something sacred. When alliances are made, he murmured. When loyalties shift. When choices become fate, they are marked here. Privately. Permanently. I swallowed. And what's about to happen? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached for a small glass decanter, dark liquid glinting like garnet in the low light, and poured 2 crystal glasses. Sit. I obeyed. He placed one in front of me, then stood over his. This isn't a toast, he said. It's an oath. My pulse stumbled. Amelia. There are two kinds of loyalty in my world. He lifted his glass. Not to cheers, but like he was holding a blade. Loyalty of choice. And loyalty of blood. I felt the words before I understood them. And, which one is this? His eyes found mine, deep, unguarded, unbearably human beneath the steel. You chose me, he said. So now I choose you. He raised the glass. To the woman who walks beside me. To the danger she accepts. To the enemies she inherits. A breath caught in my chest. To the consequences we face together. He didn't drink yet. He waited. Waited for me. I lifted my glass with a hand that trembled. Not from fear, but from the gravity of belonging to something. And someone. To the man I don't fear, I whispered, voice steadying as the words left my mouth, even when the world says I should. His jaw tightened, barely, but it did. Emotion. Sharp. Unhidden. We drank. The liquid burned, heat rushing through me like fire learning the shape of my veins. Luca exhaled slowly, like something inside him had settled. Or awakened. Then the sound, a sharp crack. Not thunder, not a door, a gunshot, close, inside the estate. My heart lurched. Luca didn't flinch. He moved. Fast, controlled violence wrapped in elegance. Stay behind me, he ordered. Not harsh, but absolute. The doors burst open before I could breathe again. 2 men rushed in, his guards, weapons drawn. Boss? One said, breathless. North wing. Breach. Someone's inside. The world narrowed. Cold fear hit me like a wave. The words from earlier echoed in my skull. Your enemies become mine. Luca's hand found the small of my back, grounding, anchoring, claiming. His voice lowered into something lethal. Secure her. No, I whispered, instinct flaring. Loyalty sharper than fear. I stay with you. His eyes flicked to mine, fierce, proud, furious at the same time. You don't understand. I chose this, I said, breath shaking, but conviction solid. You trusted me. Now trust yourself. Silence pulsed between us. A heartbeat, suspended midair. He looked at me the way a warrior looks at someone who picks up a sword. Instead of running, then he nodded once. Stay. Close, and we moved. Through halls that suddenly felt alive with threat. Shadows breathing danger. Somewhere in this house, someone was hunting. Not the man who'd come earlier. Someone bolder or more desperate. Outside, lights flared on the lawn. Inside, whispers traveled like ghosts. I wasn't a runaway girl anymore. I wasn't a stranger in his world. I was standing in the center of a war I hadn't chosen, but had claimed. And as we moved through the corridors, Luca in front, me right behind, heart pounding in rhythm with his steps, one truth burned through me. Trust wasn't tested by peace. It was tested by danger, by blood. And tonight, trust wasn't the only thing at stake. Lives were. The night in Tuscany didn't feel real. It felt borrowed from a dream. Warm, silver-lit, overflowing with the kind of peace you only earn after surviving storms. Olive trees whispered in the wind. Fireflies drifted lazily through the grass, and the ancient villa above the vineyards glowed like a memory from another life. The life where I didn't know him, didn't trust him, didn't belong in this world. But now, I did. I hadn't planned to stop. I hadn't planned to touch forever with my own hands. I had only wanted a single night, one reckless moment to feel alive again after life had crushed me. One stranger, one kiss, one breath where the world didn't feel so heavy. I didn't know that night would shape everything. And standing here, in his world, in his arms, I couldn't breathe without feeling the weight of it. The beauty, the danger, the truth. Matteo stood in front of me, black suit crisp against the moonlit stone courtyard, dark hair ruffled by the breeze, eyes softer than I ever imagined they could be, eyes that once held secrets. Now they held only me. He reached for my hand, and when his fingers closed around mine, something settled inside me. Like my heart finally found where it belonged. No running, no hiding, no fear, only him, only us. You look terrified, he murmured with a low smile, thumb brushing my knuckles. I let out a shaky breath. Terrified wouldn't exactly be wrong. And yet you stayed. Of all the truths in the world, that one was the sharpest, the most honest. I had stayed. Through danger, betrayal, heartbreak, mafia politics, and the ruins of who I used to be. I stayed, I whispered, because leaving you would have broken me more than anything else ever could. His jaw clenched, not in anger, but in that raw, vulnerable way men like him rarely showed. You changed everything, he said. You walked into my life when I thought I was already dead inside. And you didn't run from the darkness. You lit it. For a long moment we didn't speak. The world paused. The night listened. Mateo took a slow breath, reached into his jacket, and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. No? It collapsed. This is not a promise built on secrets or power or the shadows I used to hide in, he said. This is me, the man, not the boss, asking you to stay in my life not because you have to, but because you want to. He opened the box. A simple ring, delicate, gold, timeless. Not a display of wealth, but a symbol of devotion. I don't need vows in a church or a crowd or tradition, he murmured. I need you. Under this sky, in this life, in every life after. Marry me. My breath caught, my world spun, and for the first time, truly the first time since I met him, I felt entirely, completely safe. Not because he was powerful, but because he chose me, and I chose him. Yes, I whispered. Then louder, stronger, with a heart that finally knew its purpose. Yes, I'll marry you. The ring slid onto my finger. His hand trembled, mine did too, and then he pulled me into him, not with hunger, not with desperation, but with reverence, as if his soul finally returned home. The world around us disappeared. The vineyards, the moon, the wind. It was only his heartbeat and mine, stitched together in the silence. You realize, I teased softly, that I didn't just fall in love with a man. I fell in love with the most dangerous man in Italy. He smirked, brushing his forehead to mine, and I fell in love with the only woman fierce enough to stand beside him. Not beside, I corrected, voice steady and full. With. Always with. His eyes burned, not with power, but pride, love, a future, a life we carved from fate's cruel edges and turned into something beautiful. Something sacred, and under the Tuscan moon, where a stranger once stole my breath. A man and my man and gave me forever instead. No fear, no doubt, no turning back, just us. Our story, our vow, and this time, it wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Sicily woke gently. Soft waves brushed the shore below our cliffside home. Sunlight poured golden over terracotta rooftops, and distant church bells rang like memory and hope woven into sound. A year ago, I stood under the Tuscan moon saying yes to a man who terrified the world and healed mine. Today, I woke to his arm around my waist, his breath warm against my neck, his heartbeat steady and sure beneath my fingertips. Marriage with Mateo wasn't silent, it was fierce. Passionate, stubborn, honest, real, but it was ours, and every storm we faced only carved deeper into the rock of us. I slipped out of bed quietly, bare feet touching cool marble, and walked toward the balcony. Sicily sprawled beneath me, olive groves, sea breeze, the scent of lemon blossoms drifting through morning air. I rested my hand on my stomach, instinctively, gently. The smallest secret blossomed beneath my palm. I hadn't told him yet. Not because I feared his reaction, but because love this big deserved a moment that lived forever. I turned, and there he was, leaning against the doorway. Messy hair, soft eyes, a man who once ruled shadows now bathed in sunlight like he finally belonged to the world again. You're thinking too much, he murmured, voice thick with sleep. Maybe, I smiled. He came to me, arms wrapping around my waist, chin lowering to my shoulder. For a long, quiet moment, we just breathed together, listening to waves and future and fate. You know, he whispered, lips brushing my cheek. I still wake up afraid this is a dream. It isn't, I whispered back. We fought too hard for this. He kissed my temple, soft, reverent, like he still couldn't believe I stayed, or that I chose him every morning since. Mateo? I have something to tell you. He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes, that intense stare, that gravity, as if every truth in the world mattered. What is it? I took his hand, guided it to my stomach. For a breath, the world froze. His eyes widened. Surprise first, then disbelief, then something powerful and quiet and beautiful. The kind of emotion that only comes once in a lifetime. A baby? He breathed. I nodded, tears burning at the edge of my lashes. His hand trembled against me. The same hand that had once commanded fear now held our future like it was sacred. He didn't speak at first. He simply wrapped his arms around me and held me like the universe had just handed him redemption. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. You didn't just change my life, he whispered. You saved it, and now you've given me something I never thought I'd have. A family. I buried my face in his chest, laughing and crying at the same time. I didn't save you, I whispered. We saved each other. Later, as we stood watching the sea, his hand still resting protectively over mine, Matteo said something I would remember forever. Power built on fear disappears, he murmured. But power built on love lasts generations. I smiled up at him. Are you finally ready to be a good king? He smirked. I don't care about being a king anymore, he whispered. I just want to be a father, and a man worthy of you. And in that moment, with Sicily beneath us, the sea stretching endless and bright, and a new heartbeat beginning inside me, I knew we made it, not to the end of the story, but the beginning of the legacy. A stranger once stole a night with me, a mafia boss once stole my breath, but the man I married, he gave me a life, a future, and a love strong enough to outlive us both.